Hi, everybody. How are you? I hope everything is okay with you, and I hope that your journey towards being a balanced dom or being a balanced woman is going well. Today, I'm excited about the topic we're going to talk about. We're talking about whole food, plant-based living. There's a lot of noise about it these days, and I have been curious about it. I've been doing my research on it, but I thought that to be able to talk about it properly, I need to bring in somebody who is an expert in it. And I don't only have somebody who has knowledge about it, but she's a chef also. So she's going to give us some strategies, we can implement into our lives, as we try to be healthy women, right? But before we go on, have you subscribed yet? If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button and don't forget to hit that notification button, because that's how you're going to get notifications every week when we upload new episodes. And don't forget to follow us on social media on all the platforms, Instagram, Facebook. We are now on Twitter, new on Twitter. And now our podcast is also on Amazon Podcast and on iHeartRadio. So if you are connected to these two platforms, you can feel free to search for us over there, Empowered for Balance. And you can, put us on repeat, listen to us over and over and over again. I know this is season 2, but we have a lot of resources from season 1 also. All right, so enough of my talking. Let's get right into it. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Chef Lauren. She's somebody I've come to know and I like so much, and I'm going to have her introduce herself. Hi, Chef Lauren. How are you?
Hi, I'm so awesome. How are you?
I am great. I know you because I've been close to you for a little bit, but tell my audience who you are. Tell us, what you do, what your history is.
Yeah, so I work primarily as a private plant-based chef and cooking confidence coach. And by doing both of those things, I empower and encourage people to add more plants to their plate in a way that is intuitive, simple, and fun. So on the coaching side, I'm all about empowering people with confidence and the skills and the knowledge that they need to prepare easy and delicious plant-based meals in the day-to-day, meals that don't take away from time that they need to spend doing other things, but that also can fuel their bodies in such a way that they can still do those things. So it doesn't have to be a part-time job to do your own meal prep, none of that. It just takes a different shift in mindset and strategy so that you learn a system that works, and then you can plug that into whatever works for your unique family or wherever you're at on your plant-based journey. And then in person, I love to invite people to the chef's table. And right now that looks like the experience of a gourmet plant-based restaurant chef's table being transported into your home or business for the evening with multiple courses, several people around the table, paired with clean crafted wine, sometimes infused with essential oils or with CBD. And so it's just really a great experience for people who love to go out to eat or who just love that experience of something unique. Some really cool conversations and relationships form around the table. And so when we bring back this longer, slower enjoyment of being together in that way, it's really, really magical. And it's made all the more special when the food is natural and plant-based and really beautiful. Clearly it's something that I really love a lot. So that's pretty much the basis of what I'm up to. There are probably some things I've left out, but they'll come up in our conversation, I'm sure.
Yes. And I'm super excited to have you join us because there's a lot I want us to talk about. So let's just get into it.
Let's do it.
Yep. So the first thing I want us to do is to even create a bit of a background for us to understand what plant-based living is, because people think it's the same as veganism. People think it's the same as being a vegetarian, because they all have something in common. But what does whole food plant-based living mean, or what is it?
Yeah, so what it means to me is that a whole food plant-based life incorporates almost 100% of the time, and I say almost on purpose, and I'll get to that in a minute, but a whole food plant-based approach uses foods, fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, and legumes in their whole form. So we're not trying to make ingredients into something that they're not. For example, plant-based ground meat that's not, in my opinion, that's not really on a whole food plant-based diet, because
Yeah.
the product is just so far removed from what maybe some of the ingredients were originally. It might contain beet juice, but like you could just eat beets, right? And so someone who's also attracted to this whole food plant-based lifestyle probably doesn't really care so much to replicate chicken. They'd rather learn how to enjoy all the different ways that you can use and prepare sweet potatoes, right? So a whole food plant-based approach is going to be seasonal. It's going to often use local foods for wherever it is that you live, wherever, you know, whatever grows there, because those foods taste best when they're grown locally. They're better for you if you are sourcing your foods from a more local radius. When I was in college, I was vegetarian, and I challenged myself to only eat foods that came from like 100 miles of the campus radius. And it was kind of tricky, but like, it was kind of a cool moment in my journey where I really cared about the environmental impact of strawberries coming all the way from California to my table every month of the year. I thought, well, that doesn't make any sense if I'm really committed and on this sustainable kind of mission. And I really was loving what I was learning in the sustainability classes I was taking. Well, then I said, well, where does my food come from? How am I supporting something that kind of is going against, you know, what I would like to support? So how can I take a little bit of that power back? And so the best way to do that at the time, I just realized, was to source my food more locally. And when you do that, it tastes better, it's better for you, and it supports your local economy and the people who we really need in our communities to keep our food system alive. So a whole food plant-based approach is going to consider many of those things. It's also going to use lots of spices and seasonings and just natural flavorings. And then for me, that also translated into my self-care and my proactive wellness routine. So using essential oils, using natural remedies whenever possible for different ailments and things that pop up, but also preparing my self-care routine in such a way that it actually is preventing those things from cropping up in the first place, and really getting into the practice of using food also as self-care. And so when we do that, when we prioritize this whole food plant-based approach, we're able to just nip so many things in the bud, because a lot of the illnesses and kind of ailments that people face are food related, right? So it's just this whole kind of bigger than us philosophy that then when people are thinking about, oh, well, what really is whole food plant-based, or what really is vegan, right? So maybe that's another question I can just answer kind of as I'm going here. So someone who's vegan is going to not consume anything that comes from an animal. So that's the obvious: meat, chicken, fish. It's also eggs. It's also dairy. It also might include honey. I eat honey. I eat local honey. I think it's great. It's really, really important to support the beekeepers, actually. So if you can find a company local to you that you love, it also can help with seasonal threats like allergies. So someone also who is vegan, though, they'll consider those things. Now, I didn't mention anywhere in there that person eats a lot of vegetables, because that might not be true. White pasta, white bread, pizza with vegan cheese, any of, like, you name a junk food.
Oreo cookies.
Vegan. Oreo cookies are vegan, potato chips, beer, like all of those things are vegan too, but they're not whole food plant-based. So there is a little bit of a difference. And sometimes it feels, or it sounds like I might be repetitive when I say that I'm plant-based vegan, or I think there's a new term that's kind of come out, like pegan or plegan, or like, I don't know, there's something to just associate and just like really now get super specific that you're eating both a whole food plant-based plan that is vegan. Because on the contrary, someone who, and this is, I think, gonna really bring us full circle here, what you started to say about these different eating plans, like paleo, keto, Whole30, I mean, any of those, what they all have in common is plants. So whatever you choose to incorporate kind of on that 20% of whatever you feel like your body needs is your business. And I always encourage that to people I work with. And I say that freely. And when I'm sharing my food philosophy in situations like this, that it's okay to be where you are, or to really get so in touch with your intuition and what your body needs, that if you feel like you need to sometimes include those other sources of protein, go for it. Maybe you're inspired now though to think about sourcing it in a different way,
Yeah.
or preparing it in a different way, or
Yeah.
including it less frequently or in smaller portions, or do you know what I'm saying? So it looks a little bit different for people. And I think just having that perspective that plant-based can be a little bit more inclusive than people are thinking helps them to soften into this idea that it's possible for them, and doesn't totally shut them off from it from the very beginning before they've even considered it at all.
Yeah.
So I love to just welcome people to the table with that perspective. And it just, you can feel the tension being cut. You can just feel a sigh of relief that now they're kind of leaning in and they want to know a little bit more when you tell them, you know, you can still hold on to those things, but let's talk about plants. Let's talk about having more of those in a delicious way in your home.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like the way you put it, because you make it seem very simple.
It is.
Yes. But let's talk about the pockets, because there's a lot of misconception out there that living a healthy life, or, you know, having a, you know, living a whole food plant-based life, or making healthy choices is expensive. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Of course. So what gets to be expensive are just a couple of kind of more gourmet or harder to source ingredients, and definitely the prepared and the packaged food in the vegan world, right? But when you think about the average person's grocery bill, where do they spend the most? The meat counter and the fish counter. So when you're not buying those things and you're instead buying beans or legumes, those things are incredibly affordable.
Yeah.
Where it can get a little bit more expensive is when you start to source some different spices and flavorings and just kind of different things like that as you work on making this plant-based practice a little bit more interesting. Because when you have such a blank slate and canvas of these amazing vegetables, you can prepare them in so many different ways. So to keep it interesting and engaging, you do kind of need, when you're ready, those things that help to keep your plant-based meals fun and enjoyable. And that can kind of remind you of some things that you maybe are working on reducing. So like mushrooms, for example. Mushrooms are a great food to add when you're wanting to pull away from the meat a little bit more. Mushrooms, though, can be more expensive to source, especially if you go for like a lion's mane mushroom to press into kind of like a chicken breast style kind of situation. Or, you know, a portobello. Those are pretty affordable, right? So there's a range there, right? And then even thinking about like one area I haven't mentioned are nuts. Nuts are expensive, especially cashews. So for the person who wants to swap out their dairy, their animal-based dairy, for plant-based dairy or non-dairy, making that swap for swap switch might be more expensive because cashews are more expensive. And so just buying vegan cream cheese and vegan shredded cheese and like all of those things, that's going to maybe add up in a little bit of a different way because of the nature of the dairy industry and how, you know, particular things are subsidized or just, you know, and we certainly don't have to get into that. But what I always encourage people to do before they make that swap for swap is try to reduce how frequently you're eating those things. So maybe you start to skip the cheese on a sandwich, skip the cheese on a pizza, in your tacos, like anywhere where you're like, yeah, I could do without the cheese here. And then if you're snacking and you're like really a cheese person and you like to have cheese for snack, I get it. I was addicted to dairy for years and I had the acne on my face to prove it. But it's helpful to just start like reducing. And that was how I did it in my own approach to going fully plant-based, is I reduced and then kind of noticed how that felt in my body. And then I was able to add in, as I wanted to, that plant-based dairy. And I can tell you, I have not ever eaten more cheese in my life than I have as a vegan. And it's crazy, but it's delicious. And you don't eat as much because it's so filling. It's nutrient dense. It's not playing those tricks on your brain to keep you addicted in the way that dairy does, because that's the nature of its design, to keep baby cows addicted to their mother's milk so that they grow and be big and strong and keep the species moving forward. Right. So, plant-based is not any more expensive. And in fact, most cultures globally, especially those that are in developing countries, meat is a luxury.
Yeah,
they eat it once in a blue moon, and whatever cut or fish or like whatever they get goes to feed a family of at least 6 or 8 in most cases.
That's true.
where we might
Yeah.
have that as one serving for lunch.
Yeah.
So it's just a bit of an imbalance. And a lot of it is mindset, though. A lot of it is those questions that pop up for people. And I always ask, like, what makes you say that? Or have you thought about that? Have you wondered about that? And so you really can start to kind of get into the psychology of it all, and start to kind of break that down for people. And then that's really the magic that starts to happen in the kitchen when our mindset shifts, when our mantras shift. Instead of saying, plant-based is expensive, or I'm a horrible cook, or I don't have time to cook. What if you said something else? What if you said, I'm enjoying shopping at the grocery store to find new plant-based treasures every week, right?
Yes.
And then you observe the grocery bill go down, and then you say, I'm practicing how to cook food for my own family's health in my own home with my own hands.
Yeah.
I'm practicing, whatever it is. And so just to have that makes it so much more fun and exciting and doable. So
yeah. And the question is, at what cost? Also, you also need to realize that, if you don't, go for those healthy choices, you could have a long-term consequence of probably a disease that you might have to pay medicine for. So would you rather be proactive now, or would you wait and have to pay for medication?
Exactly. And just like that old saying that they say, your health is your wealth.
Yeah.
I want to be healthy for the long term. So it's worth absolutely investing in every single day. And we do that multiple times a day with how we choose to spend our time, and what content we also consume, and how we use our own self-talk and the language, and how we perceive ourselves, and how we work in a self-care routine, and one that actually feels good, and just part of how we care for ourselves. It doesn't have to be this like weekly spa treatment as self-care. Your self-care simply can be drinking more water and making sure that I get enough sleep.
I really agree with everything you're talking about. Seriously. Yeah. So let's talk about the benefits, because people like to know what benefits they can get from something if they're going to invest into it. So what are the benefits of transitioning into a whole food plant-based lifestyle, and not necessarily a full vegan? Because I know that sometimes some people do 80-20, some people do 60-40, but what are the benefits of even doing some form of it, no matter how much the percentage is?
Yeah, great question. So plants bring so much to our health. So nutritionally speaking, and I certainly am not like a certified nutritionist or dietitian or anything, all of those details, as I would learn about them at different courses I would take, kind of made my eyes glaze over. But one of the things that stuck out to me was, these are what's healthy for you, and here's why. But my mind was already thinking, oh, I wonder what I can do with them. This flavor goes with that flavor, and this color and this taste. And so I was already I'm like, yeah, healthy on this and this thing. Got it. Like, now I'm going to go buy it, and I'm going to like figure out how to do this for me. So plant-based foods bring tons of vitamins and nutrients and minerals. But the thing to know about there is that we're not getting as much as we were years ago from the soil, from the health of our foods. So I think I heard something recently on a podcast, something about some mineral in apples was 5 times higher in apples cultivated like decades ago than it is now. So like our food is losing nutrients. So however, plants still bring so much more value and nutrients and water. Plants have water. They're living things, right? And you could make the argument that, well, an animal is a living thing as well, but that's not the point. The point is that it's something that grew. It's something that was grown with the energy of the sun and the water of the rain, and it's got kind of like a life and a seed of its own. And so when we eat that, we get that benefit. We get that life and that vitality, which is really really awesome. So in addition to that kind of energetic, esoteric sort of concept, we get fiber. Yeah, we do get protein from plants. Animals are just like the middleman, so to say. Yeah. And when we eat animals, we eat them when they're dead. So really, I think there's no downside of eating more plants. It's really maybe more a conversation of, what's the downside of what you might currently be eating? How is that contributing to ill health currently? Yeah. But I'm going to keep it more in the positive direction though, of like, what are plants bringing? Yeah. So they offer antioxidants, anti-inflammatory, all of the things that keep our machines running in a very smooth, well-oiled way, right? It's just like taking good care of a car. You've got to give it the right fuel. Just because you can pour bleach in the tank where the gas goes doesn't mean that that's the right fuel for it to run. And so the same is true for our human bodies. Just because you can eat it doesn't mean it's food.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I think we talk a lot about the benefits of plant-based, but we almost talk about it from the wrong perspective. We're talking about it because we need to undo the damage that's been done to our bodies because of the fake, processed, low vibrational, very heavy animal foods that we've been eating. So that's why we say antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, all of those things. And our body needs those just in its natural processes. Like our body is constantly producing, oxidants. So we need antioxidants to help pull them out of our bodies. Like it's part of the detox system, that's kind of happening. But it's happening more and more because of the types of foods that we're eating, that we really need to seek turmeric, like we need to add turmeric to everything for anti-inflammatory. Well, what are you doing that's so inflammatory in the first place? Probably eating a lot of sugar and animal-based foods. Right. Wow. So plant-based foods just bring so much, and they bring also to the plate literally so much color. And it's so fun to eat with your eyes first. I mean, we do, right? When you say, it's like such a common thing. It's why we love Instagram so much sometimes. It's like, wow, that looks so good. You haven't even eaten anything. When you scroll your Instagram feed, you are not eating with your mouth. You're eating with your eyes.
Yeah.
Right. So plants are so colorful. They bring every hue of shade imaginable is found in a vegetable or a fruit or a superfood of some kind. And it's amazing the beauty that can be created when you're curious and playful with your food in that way.
Yeah.
You can't really, you can do that with processed foods and artificial food colorings and all of that, but it has no life at all. Right. And often the foods that people are choosing are white or beige or gray or all of that. And the plant-based world just has so much more color to offer. And with that comes a variety of nutrients. So you don't have to really be so worried about where your vitamin A, your vitamin C, your folate, you don't have to worry about really where those are coming from. You just have to worry about keeping up with variety for yourself, and then just a balance of color. And it's as easy as saying, wow, that looks good. Right? It's so easy. Is that colorful? How colorful? Do you have green on your plate? Because when we eat a lot of green, when we see a lot of green, we feel very grounded, right? Yeah. Humans belong in nature. So we love to look at trees. Forest bathing is a thing because we got so wrapped up in the cities and the tech world that now people go out into the woods, and it has a term, and you just look at the trees and you observe the green colors and you feel that energy and you have that ground down. Well, you can experience that very same thing when you have more green on your plate. And even further, you can experience that from the inside out when you use plants to help ground your energy, because they grew from roots that are in the ground. It's so cool to be part of that natural system. And truly you are what you eat. Now, I don't know about you, but I would like to be living, breathing vitality. Like that's what I want. And plants bring that.
Yeah. Wow. I just love everything you're talking about. And one thing that really stuck to me was when you said, we're talking anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, things like that. And the question we need to be asking ourselves is, what are we eating that makes us need all that? So how about we rather go, I'm going to feed my body with what is going to, clean it up, heal it, so that I don't even have to have the inflammation at all, right?
Exactly.
Or I don't have to have the pain or have the bloating or feel, because the thing is, junk food is yummy. I love junk food, honestly. But after eating it, what you have to go through after eating the junk, it's hard, the pain, the headache, the sluggishness, the brain fog, So I do agree with everything you're talking about, but it's easier said than done. So how can what strategies do you have for somebody who really understands everything you're talking about, is really interested, wants to, go eat a lot of fruits, veggies, be healthy, make healthy choices, but it's so hard. How can this person start? How can this person stick to this lifestyle, without feeling deprived?
Yeah, I love to answer this question. I'm going to start though first with something that you said, because it's so hard. That's the first change.
Yeah.
Eating healthy is easy. If you keep telling yourself that it's hard, it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
So the first thing is I'm learning how to eat healthy, or eating healthy is easy, right?
Yeah.
And you just keep saying that over and over. And that was something that I used kind of on the other side of some of the things that I do. And I was talking about the in-person experiences. I have this mantra in the kitchen: everything always works out. I always have just enough of what I need for ingredients. I always make just enough portions of things for the amount of guests I need. Everything just always works out. And that was non-negotiable. That was the mantra. And now that is true every single time.
Wow.
So the new thing to say before we even answer this question is being healthy is easy. Cooking healthy food is easy.
Yeah.
That's it. End of story. Not negotiable.
Yeah.
So now getting into that, right? Actually doing it, understanding healthy food, and everybody knows what foods are healthy. That's not the topic of discussion, really. Mm-hmm. You could get into superfoods and what are those and all of that. But what you said is absolutely right. The challenge is in actually applying what we know to be true in the day-to-day, because it's so much easier to reach for junk. I don't call it junk food, because food implies something you can eat. It's just junk. Like it should not be associated with food at all, because it's not food. So it's easy to choose those things. It's easy to go to a fast food place and just grab something because it takes less time. It costs less money. And they've engineered it in such a way that it hits all the right notes of flavor so that it actually is the thing that you're kind of craving. But really, if you can trick your body, you can actually really crave fruits and vegetables too. We'll get into that in a moment, I'm sure. So first, you can simply look at the meals that you're eating in a given week. Think about if you can make one whole day plant-based, or I used to do this with a friend when we were both working on quitting sugar. We used to have sugar-free days, and we worked in a bakery at Disney World at that. So we were surrounded by sugar and just like snacks of this and that, and the ends of brownies that we couldn't use. And, it was everywhere. And it took work. It took accountability of having that person and, to go through it together, to be sugar-free for a day. And so that was doable. It was just 2 days a week at the time. Then we would work to 3 and then to 4. And then after a while, we started to notice how we felt when we ate that sugar. And in that observation, that's where you start to say, aha, you put the dots together and you say, I don't think this is really anything I want to eat anymore, because now I know how it makes me feel. When you're able to do that, you don't need armfuls of willpower to stay the course. You just become totally uninterested in that thing because you realize it doesn't serve you, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it. The other thing as well is setting yourself up for success. And this is something that I teach to my students in the courses that I offer, and then in those clients who decide to take that experience and get a little bit more accountability and hand-holding and work with me one-on-one. So they get this philosophy of what I call plant-based fundamentals. And you can see even in that word, fundamentals, there's fun built in. I can't help it. So we go through 2 things. The first, phase 1, is how to stock your pantry. That's a bit of a different process when you're on a plant-based path, right? When you're incorporating more of those healthier things, you're not just using white flour, white pasta. We're not using that stuff. We've got nutrient-dense things we're using now. So it's stocking your pantry, but then it's also, what do you do with these things, with this fresh produce that you bring home? How do you get this processed in such a way that it makes preparing the meals throughout the week very easy? So it's what I call batch cooking or batch prepping. So you don't always have to be actually cooking. You could just be shredding your kale, shredding red cabbage, shredding your own carrots. You could be oven roasting sweet potatoes. You could be oven roasting a tray of veggies. And you do all of these things in a neutral way, flavor-wise, so that you can do tons of things with them throughout the week, so that meal prep in each meal, in each moment, becomes easy. It almost becomes kind of like a meditation. I'll get to that in just a sec. And And so that it can stay interesting, so that you can say, oh, we're craving a power bowl or a Buddha bowl to taste kind of Mediterranean tonight because we've got these different things and, ooh, that sounds good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's a couple days later and you look at what you've got and you say, you know what sounds good? Pizza. We're going to have pizza. And so you're able to still eat all of the food categories, the meal categories that you might not consider to be part of a plant-based plan, but you're actually able to still enjoy them because you've changed the nature of the ingredients. They're higher quality, they're nutrient dense. And so you're still able to have that experience of eating a pizza or a stir fry or tacos or an ice cream sundae even.
Yes.
But you've just changed what's on the plate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's how this process is sustainable, because you're not feeling lack.
Yeah.
You're not feeling restricted or like you're left out of a party or something, right? Food is so much more than just food. It's very social. It's very tied to emotion and memory. And it's something that you should enjoy. Every meal we eat is an opportunity to bring joy. It also brings nutrients and fuel, of course, and, you know, fills our hunger. But another question to ask and to consider is, what is that hunger? Where is that coming from? That's kind of a term that I've been throwing out there a lot lately, is find your hunger. Maybe your hunger in the afternoon, if you go for the sweets around 3 or 4 in the afternoon, maybe your hunger is actually to spend some time outside, grab a water bottle, hit the trail, spend some time in nature. Maybe it's to spend some time with your kids, to get some good snuggles in, or to go and have a good conversation with a friend or someone you want to, you know, reach out to. Maybe it's not for the candy. Maybe you're reaching for that. Like we reach for the food to satiate so easily and quickly because it's the fastest form of gratification. And unfortunately, I think within the last year as well, with just being confined to our homes a bit more, it's just kind of been, for a lot of people, anything goes, you know, like it was hard out there the last year. Right. And so we get comfort from food, comfort food, right, as a whole thing because of how it makes us feel. But what if instead you also can seek these other more holistic activities that can make you feel the same way or a similar way, but that aren't going to also take away from your nutrition plan? So I think I answered the question that you originally asked somewhere in there, and there are several other ways that we can go. So
yes. And you know, one thing you said that I really like is the fact that you don't have to feel deprived. You can still have the ice cream, you can still have the pizza, you can still have the tacos. It's just a matter of switching out what ingredients are being used to make them. So it's not about the concept of the food or the kind of stuff you like, but it's more about ingredients and what you're using to make the food you would usually eat. So I like it. That makes it sound very easy.
Yes, and it is. So now, so now you're even getting that, just hearing it described in that way.
Yeah.
And now you do realize that's true. Eating healthy is easy. But I want to describe one of these just so people really have a more clear idea in what I mean by changing the actual ingredients, the things in the bowl or on the plate. So let's take ice cream sundae, for example, because it could be very easy for people to just hear that and think, oh, I just have to go buy vegan ice cream now and I'm healthy. That's what she said. That's totally not what I mean. You can make a very cool ice creamy product with frozen fruit. So you can use your food processor or a blender, kind of make like a smoothie bowl sort of thing, imagine, right? But there's a great company called yearn, and they don't sponsor me to say this or anything, but I'd say it regardless because it's such an awesome machine. It's a machine that uses this interesting kind of blade shredding sort of situation on the inside to process frozen bananas and then whatever other frozen fruit you want to add to it to make something that's kind of like frozen yogurt consistency. So that's what is now the base of my ice cream. So I'm having strawberry, mango. Sometimes I'll add like frozen blueberries in there. And then you could add vanilla extract if you wanted to, cacao powder. You could add a little like nuts and nut butters. And exactly. So you've got the base for your ice cream. And then you're able to add all sorts of good for you toppings. So like an ice cream sundae usually has hot fudge and like strawberry sauce and caramel and sprinkles. But instead of those things, maybe you use some almond butter, peanut butter. Maybe you make like a date caramel sauce with dates, maple syrup, and almond butter. Or maybe you add some crunchies like nuts or cacao nibs, or I like to add dried fruit sometimes, or goji berries, even sometimes for like a little extra treat, a coconut whipped cream. Like, so imagine, right? You've got this overflowing bowl with all of the right components that are going to remind you of eating an ice cream sundae. But when you make it to the end of that bowl, you don't feel like you did, because actually what you had was fruit and superfoods. So that's sort of cool. Yeah.
Wow. That sounds delicious and also sounds doable. You know, we definitely have to invest in it. We have to be committed to live this life. But the way you describe it makes it feel less like, oh, I'm going to be deprived of what I usually love. You know, because for me, when the first time I had whole food plant-based, I thought, oh, I'm going to eat salads all day. And I'm not a big salad eater. I like soups. I like, you know, comfort stuff. But now that you just described it, it's like, oh, this is really easy because I'm only switching out, you know, I'm switching out all the sugar and the caramel and all that for the healthy options so that I can still satisfy that craving that I have and not get the backstory. Because the backstory is always the hard one, you know, the inflammation and the headache and all that. So it's amazing. It's amazing. Where can we find you? I know you have a course. I've taken it and I love it. But you know, let my audience know where can they find you, and where can they find out more if they want to know more?
Yeah, so everything that I'm up to is on my website, laurendagostino.com. And from there, people can find the course, which is all available, at least for now, on Teachable. So it's a very user-friendly school. You can get directed right to that. I'm on social media, Instagram mostly, Facebook a little bit, and then LinkedIn a smidge too, but have plans to get onto YouTube and all of that. And it's the same username across all channels at Chef Lauren D'Agostino. So that's the best way. And I always offer, a free chat of how to go plant-based. How can I help people wherever they're at right now? What are you going through? What are you struggling with? How can I give you a few itty bitty baby steps to take right now to move in the direction that you desire? And then when they do those, they come on back for a little bit more, and they come on back for a little bit more, because they're starting to see progress. They're starting to feel confidence growing. Right. And so, so that's just sort of a fun thing for me to help people with. It's really such an honor, and I'm so humbled and privileged that people enter into these conversations with me, and that something of what I'm saying resonates. Because truly, I mean, I speak it from the heart and from the belly, because it's worked so well for me, and a plant-based diet has really allowed my inner light to just shine like I never realized was possible. And often what I say about plant-based and what I say about food philosophy and how I describe things, it's not even like it's me speaking, really. It's just almost this universal or kind of source God energy that just I feel like is really I'm just kind of the vessel for it all. I'm just the face of it. It's really just this concept that's kind of found me, and that I've found by way of taking the action here on planet Earth, and so now it's just in perfect harmony and alignment, and it's just the coolest thing.
Yeah. And I think you're doing amazing work because, again, for somebody like me who likes food, I'm a foodie. Everybody who knows me, knows that I like food. But to be able to explain it to me, especially, taking your course and learning from you, you make it seem a lot easier, and I believe that whoever goes there to check out your content will realize that it is a lot easier than we think. Because again, we don't have to be, we don't have to feel like we have to let go of the kind of stuff that we like. And that's the approach that you use. And I love it. It's amazing work. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yep. All right. So this is the end of our episode today. I'm going to have Chef Lauren come back because I think that she has a lot of content and there's so much in here. There's so much I wanted us to get to. that we couldn't get to. So I'm going to have her come back again and we can talk some more. But hey, thank you for sticking with us till the end. You are amazing for being here. I appreciate your time. And I know that whatever it is that Chef Lauren has spoken to us about today is going to guide you to make those healthy choices that you need to make so that you can become the balanced dom. And I'm sure you guys have heard me talk a lot about balanced dom these days. And I think that we are all trying to be balanced dom. Dom is the French word for lady. So instead of saying the balanced lady, I say the balanced dom. And that's where we want to get to achieve that balance, shift from the stress, the burnout, you know, the tiredness, the exhaustion, the unfulfillment, and go into a place of balance, a place of fulfillment, a place of productivity, and a place of purposefulness. So thanks for sticking with us. I hope to see you next week. Again, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button, because that's how you're going to get the notifications when we upload new episodes every week. Take good care of yourself, and I hope to see you next week. Bye.